Hello everyone, and welcome to my 4 p.m. live session. Today we're going to be talking about collagen, and just want to try and address quite a few questions that have come my way. Hello Louise, how you doing? Thanks for joining. So this is a big topic, collagen, and it's a big buzzword, often misused. Hello to everyone joining. Thanks for coming on. So I'm hoping to cover some key points, some of which you may not be aware of, and also try and dispel a few myths, as always. And also, so just to make it clear, I'm on Instagram live on the Perfect Skin Solutions page. I'm also simultaneously live on the Perfect Skin Solutions Facebook page as well, so excuse me for kind of flipping between two screens. I'm talking to you all. Thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, thanks for the waves as well. So I just said I'm going to be talking about the C word, okay, and that's collagen. Obviously, we'll keep it clean, and hopefully it will go on for about 10-15 minutes. It may go on for a bit longer, but feel free to message with any questions. If I miss them whilst I'm talking, then try and draw my attention with a comment later on. I have got a list of questions that I've been sent as well from people who want to know about the things they're using, whether they work, things that they can do at the moment. And there are some amazing things you can do with the technology we have now that can really give you a phenomenal improvement to your skin. I can speak for myself that over 10 years my skin has improved. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. And it shows. People say, oh, you look well, you look fresh, even if you're a bit tired. So I just want to pass on some of those tips. So let's just talk about aging very briefly. It's specifically focusing on collagen. Aging is a genetic clock. Okay, so we have a genetic predisposition. All our cells do, and that clock's winding down. And you can't get past that. Okay, that's just the way life is, and that's aging, and that's fine. And that's why you might see that some people seem to age better in certain families than others, and that's just the genes that they've got. But then there's the environmental factors, and of course we know many of these, but I just want to go through some of them and show you how you can, and what I do to try and counter these. So the most important one is obviously UV radiation. Now, whenever I talk about UV radiation, I know some people are thinking straight away, vitamin D, I need my vitamin D. Look, I'll try and do a separate thing on vitamin D. I think it's so important, but if you're in the UK, you need to be standing naked for 15 minutes at midday south of Oxford to get the right amount of vitamin D if you've got skin fairer than mine. So most people are actually deficient in it. 72% of the population are low in it through the winter months. So I always advise people to take vitamin D. It's a very cheap supplement to buy. But UV radiation, we'll focus on aging, does significantly deplete collagen. And so you know what's coming. It's obviously sun protection measures, wearing SPF Daily. I'm wearing it now. We won't talk about potential effects of vitamin D on coronavirus, okay, today. But I've got it on now, and it's important because it is every day aging. And people often say, well, I'm indoors, it's a cloudy day. But unless you're in a pitch dark room, you are getting UV radiation on your skin. Okay, so it should be something that you consider applying every day. And don't forget the eyes. The number of people who complain of dark circles, and one of the factors is always going to be pigmentation and sun damage, always, in everyone. They may or may not have volume deficit. They may or may not have other factors that influence aging around the eyes. But one thing you're all going to have is a little bit of sun damage, and very few people will actually go to the trouble of allowing their SPF to go underneath. We're going to do a separate session on ingredients in a couple of weeks, and I can guarantee 90% of the audience are going to be surprised by what I talk about in that, and probably discover that what they've been using up until now is not what they think they're using, or isn't doing what they think it's doing. And that's going to focus particularly on sun protection ingredients. Cigarette smoke, you know, that's another big thing. Cigarette smoke is also going to lead to collagen depletion, and we know smokers age more than non-smokers. Pollution is another big thing, and particulate matter can have a disastrous effect on the skin and on aging. And so, you know, and it has been shown people who live in congested areas, in built-up cities, or where there's more industrial pollution, they do have more aging on their skin. Sugar. I could talk to you about sugar in the diet for a long time. Look, I've got a sweet tooth, but sugar, particularly processed sugars, do have a detrimental effect on collagen, and I'll talk about that in a second. Mechanical stress, again, is another factor, and hormonal changes. So let's just go back to collagen. We actively make collagen significantly as we're growing up to about our early mid-20s, and then it slows down and we're not really making much active collagen unless we're injured, unless it's induced with one of the treatments we would offer in clinic, or you use certain skincare products, but there's a big caveat with that, which I'll talk about in a minute. So you deplete about 1 to 2% of your collagen per year from around your mid-20s. Little note for the ladies, in the first 5 years of menopause you lose 30% of your collagen, and so often I do get ladies around that age, around the 50s, give or take 5 to 10 years, saying, oh, I suddenly every year feel that everything's gone south. And they're not lying really, because there has been an acceleration in collagen depletion, and so it's not surprising that that's suddenly then noticed in the mirror. And so, you know, this is going to happen. You know, you can't get past this, but there are things that you can do to counter the rate of collagen depletion. So it's really important that we talk about collagen either within clinic treatments or with skincare and things you do at home. So one of the questions I had, which I'll read out in detail in a minute, is about retinol. And so I just wanted to focus on retinol because there are some ingredients and some things that you can put on your skin that will make a big difference. We've talked about UV radiation damage, and we've talked about SPF, but you know what's coming, it's retinol. And I think I should do a separate session just on retinol, because it's amazing how many people are using a product that says it's got retinol in it, or they believe it's got something like retinol, and it will not be doing anything as far as that retinol product is concerned. So retinol falls into the retinoid family, okay, and that's really the vitamin A family. And this is fantastic for people to use on their skin, because retinol has been shown to have multiple mechanisms of effect. It specifically, one of its mechanisms is that it does actually downregulate a bunch of enzymes that are produced as a result of UV radiation, which then lead to collagen breakdown. So by inhibiting these enzymes, it actually has a prevention effect, a sort of anti-collagen breakdown effect. And it acts like a hormone really. It works on various receptors. It also has an anti-inflammatory effect, which is one of the reasons, but not the only reason, that it helps in acne as well. It also helps with pigmentation. So it's a very multifunctional ingredient, and used in the correct formulation, and that's the key, it actually is one of the best ingredients, and I would say a must-have for pretty much everyone. There are caveats, and that is why it is one of the few products that I would never, in fact, at our clinic, you have to have a skin consultation of some description with one of the clinicians before you can get any products, actually, because you'll be, you know, that education really does influence how people use products and the decisions they make, and they need to understand why we're recommending a certain program. But retinol is definitely one that no one would be able to walk off the street and buy from our shelves without a consultation. And you know, I was going to save this for another talk, but just to say, there is one. There's many products on the shelves in the shops, but there's one that, you know, I think the company has made millions from this one product alone, and it has the letters RET in the name, which makes you think, oh, I've heard Dr. Patel talking about retinol or whoever, let me buy this and it's bound to work. And actually, if you look in the ingredients, it's got one of the esters, an ineffective ester. It's called retinol palmitate. That is not effective topically. and it's not going to do what you think it's going to do in terms of vitamin A behavior at all. And yet that is the very ingredient that this whole product has become a global bestseller for this company and made it millions. And there's a lot of mis-selling like this. So please, 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 you know, if you're going to take anything from today's session, don't just go and buy randomly or go on Amazon and buy things, because, you know, it's not going to work. Erica's just asked a question, how can I get some products that I know will work, but are also clean, free of parabens, dyes, sulfates, and have also not been tested on animals? That's great, thanks Erica. So yeah, talking of this, I mean, we sell two brands, Tebby Skin and Illumia MD, don't mind mentioning those names, and I've got a couple of them here actually, and but I must stress, you know, well, both of them are actually very ethically minded companies, so they you know, their products will tick all the boxes that you want in terms of being free of the parabens and you know, and not being tested on animals, etc. In fact, Illumia MD, I have to say, this brand is pretty much the cleanest brand I know, but still works, and that's the key thing. You want it to work, but you also want it to have clean science. It hasn't got minerals, you know, it hasn't got parabens, dyes, all the things that you don't want a product to have. And it goes one step further beyond, you know, current thinking, where they're thinking maybe a certain ingredient might possibly be something we don't want in a product. They're just thinking, well, we don't need it, we're just going to cut it out in the first place. And the other thing I want to mention is, because we were talking about retinol, is just formulations. So I'm not going to mention any brand in a negative light, of course I'm not. But sorry Erica, I will finish off on how you can get these. That you basically need a unique code to give evidence that you have discussed with a clinician what we're prescribing you, and then you can go on their platform and order online, but you do need that code. So you'd need to email us or DM us, but you can email at info@perfectskinsolutions.co.uk, and then I can arrange a little chat with you. If you're already one of our patients, it's easier, and then we can get that sorted. With this range, Tebby Skin, which is phenomenal as well, they've got some very unique products that I will try and mention at the end, growth factor products that are just amazing for stimulating regeneration of skin. And again, they've got a system in place where we can send them a prescription and they will post it in a sealed bag via courier directly to you. And these are actually made in Italy, and bless the Italians, you know what's going on there, worse than what we've got going on here at the moment, and they're struggling to get some of their products over, but they're trying their best, and it'd be, you know, it's quite good if we can keep them going in business as well. So those are two brands that I recommend, and that's how you can do it. Just DM us and we can arrange it for you. So there are some brands out there that I've come across which will say retinol, which will say whatever, and there's one which is known to be actually very, very cheap. And so I presented this to a lab and also to a local a company that actually works on the nanotechnology and the molecular delivery of these ingredients. And he just laughed. He said the technology they've been working on, the nanomolecular technology, to deliver these ingredients to where they need to go to have that biological action, costs so much that it has to be reflected in the cost of a product. And you can put anything into a bottle. You know, I can throw an apple into a bottle, I can throw anything into a bottle, but it's only as good as it's going to be if it gets to where it needs to be. And if you're trying to work on, say, fibroblast cells to upregulate collagen production, then you need that ingredient to get to the fibroblasts in the first place. And most over-the-counter products will only work at a very superficial level. In fact, I believe the FDA had a ruling about over-the-counter products not being able to affect biological change in certain aspects. And so if it's over-the-counter, more often than not, it's not going to be the correct strength, the correct formulation, have the correct molecular delivery to get it where it needs to go, or it's going to have ineffective esters mixed in. You know, how's it been packaged? Have the ingredients been oxidized? Particularly relevant to retinols and vitamin C, etc., etc. Okay, so I want to talk about something unique, and that's the sugar. Okay, I want to address once the clinic opens, what can I come in and have a big boost to my collagen levels? I'm dying for a treatment. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of people, Erica, dying for a treatment. I'll address that at the end if you bear with me. I just wanted to talk about this thing because even in our clinic, actually, it's hard, often doesn't get talked about apart from me, because I use it, and people don't talk about sugar in the diet. They don't talk about pollution as much. And I mentioned that sugar, this is a very simplistic way, but sugar in our diet ends up causing certain reducing sugars, they're called, which can bind to collagen and other proteins. And then a further reaction occurs, creating something called advanced end glycation products. And these AGEs will bind to collagen and elastin and stiffen those proteins up in the skin. And they also result in another enzymatic reaction which further breaks down the collagen in your skin. So sugar is a big thing, and obviously that, if you can cut it out, it helps you in so many ways. It is actually seen as a toxin, a poison by the body in many ways. But there is a fantastic product that I love. It's one of my top 3, called AG. So for any of you Lumiere MD users, if you haven't used this, it's really, really worth a try. It blocks 80% of particulate matter, which is above a certain size, from pollution. And it also has ingredients in it which will specifically work on breaking down that sugar collagen bond, and also helping to prevent that sugar binding to your collagen as well. So this is one of my must-haves. I've actually got it on now. I've put vitamin C on. So we've talked about retinol, which I use at night, probably 3-4 nights a week. And then in the morning, vitamin C. This is one of those multifunctional kick-ass products that will just do a bit of everything. And of course, vitamin C is essential for collagen production. I then put on my AGE serum, and then my SPF is the final thing to go on. So I'm going to address a couple of these questions before I waffle on. Can you talk about collagen boosting whilst breastfeeding? Many treatments are available. I can't read my own writing. I took it off a message earlier. But basically the question was from Mariana, so thank you, Mariana, that there's a lot of really effective retinol containing products, but they're not advised in breastfeeding mothers. Now, I could talk about the evidence behind this, but when we're talking generally on a social media platform, it's best just to give the safest, most cautious advice, which is that retinol containing products are not recommended for pregnant women and in breastfeeding mothers. But that doesn't mean you can't use other things, Mariana. So I mentioned the vitamin C, but peptides, and now peptides again is very misused in the skincare industry. About 20 years ago, something called Matrixyl came out. It was shown, it was a trademark formulation made up of proteins essentially that was shown to actually stimulate collagen production in the skin. This was trademarked, and one of the key scientists behind that is actually one of the scientific advisors for the Lumiere MD range. And actually the 3rd generation of Matrixyl, which is Matrixyl Synthos 6, is actually in their products. And again, I've seen a leading range in a local shop, a chain of shops, and I saw this ingredient and I thought, oh, brilliant, okay, this is available in the shops. I turned the bottle around. Of course, it won't say that in the ingredient list. It will give the proper chemical name, which I found at the very bottom of the ingredient list, so below the preservatives. So they've essentially done what's called dusting in the industry. You put just enough in to be able to actually list it in the ingredients, but there's no way enough to actually make a difference. It's a bit like licking a paracetamol. It's not going to take your headache away. You need, as an adult, I need a gram of paracetamol on average to actually make a difference and have that therapeutic effect. And this is how companies will often misuse what you'll have heard or read about and get you to spend your money on their products. So that Matrixyl 6 is really good. So you can use those, any of the range that have the Matrixyl Synthos 6. So you can contact me and I can let you know. Most of their night creams, their vitamin C serum has it. the Ultimate Boost Serum, which is one of their best products. It's got a powerhouse of incredible ingredients, effective clinical strength as well, to work on pigmentation and collagen stimulation and hydration, etc. So that I think that's one of the really good holistic products in the range. So you can use those, and then once you eventually stop breastfeeding, it's so nice to hear that you are breastfeeding and giving your baby all that great nourishment. Then you can obviously then introduce retinol as well, but there's no need to miss out. You know, I have actually seborrheic dermatitis, which is why sometimes I have a little bit of redness here, and sometimes I choose not to use my retinol, although it actually has been shown to help up to 125 dermatological conditions in various research. I sometimes don't use it if my skin's particularly dry, particularly if I'm stressed. But I'll use the other things with the right peptides in them, the vitamin C, etc. And I still know I'm doing something to maintain and actually increase my collagen levels. Talking about the growth factor creams, these I think are amazing. I use a twinned protocol for my scarred patients with acne scarring, and almost all of them will come back 2 to 3 weeks later for their first in-clinic treatment, be it Fractora, microneedling, subcision, whatever we're going to be doing to start with. And almost all of them will say that they've already seen a difference in their scarring and they've already had comments. And if you can do that for scarring, then you can certainly do that for aging. And although they are different in many ways, one is from injury, one is from the natural aging process, you still want to trigger and potentiate that regeneration in the skin. And these products are amazing, and many of our patients will use it as an adjunct to treatments we do in clinic, and they'll often then come back and say, oh, can I carry these on? And you think, of course you can, they're phenomenal for keeping on top of aging. And I actually use the growth factor cream 3 or 4 nights a week at least, all over my face, including around my eyes, because I know what it can do. And this technology is absolutely amazing. It's actually made from bacteria, if you want to know, obviously all cleaned. And they put them in certain salt water solution, and then they change the salinity, and that makes them produce growth factors, which are almost identical to ours, very similar to ours, and then obviously it's purified and put into the creams. So again, a lot of amazing but very costly science goes into these products, but actually, this is 50 something quid. You don't have to spend a fortune on these creams, and they last a lot longer as well. So many people think they're going to have to spend a fortune. You don't actually, and a lot of my patients who are using off-the-shelf ranges actually say that over 12 months they'll save money. And so I want to go to Erica's question about, no problem, you're welcome, Mariana, about in-clinic treatment. So yes, Erica, you're very welcome to come back when we open. Who knows when that's going to be, hopefully not too far away in the distant future. Everyone knows who watches me on Instagram, my favorite treatment is Morpheus 8. And it's a powerhouse, holistic, fractional radiofrequency, pin-assisted radiofrequency. The beauty of it is that I can do it at various depths. The new heads can actually do very superficial depths, 0.5 mil, 1 mil, but at the moment with the current heads I have, I can do 2 millimeters. I can go down to the fat to work on the little build-up of fat that we get under here and here, so you can shrink down that fat and give further contouring. And for the neck, it's just phenomenal. Loose skin on the tummy, loose skin on the arms. Check out Morpheus 8, that's the number 8.co.uk, and you can see some before and afters and a whole video, animated video explaining how it works. But that's incredible technology, FDA approved, very safe, and effective, but works over many months. So you do have to be patient. So if you want something today, that's not your one. I'm a big believer in Radies. I'm a big fan. And Radies, which is a dermal filler, but don't think of it like a dermal filler. It's a biostimulator and works beautifully, and also gives you a little bit of projection, volume and lift as well, taking your face back 5-10 years, depends what age you are, of course. And there are again some very impressive results from that. And of course there's some other biostimulators, Profilo, Sunacos, we have various injectables. Some people don't want fillers, so you can just have these biostimulating hyaluronic acid injections on your face. And then there are other things, we've got certain lasers, we've got Even, you know, a deep chemical peel can give you a certain amount of skin remodeling, but it can also give you surface correction as well. So I think it's important to focus on everything, but if you really want to talk about collagen, Morpheus 8 would probably be one of my favorites. Profilo, Radies, I think those would have to be my top treatments for giving some real obvious noticeable results, you know, down the line. So let's quickly go. We've covered UV radiation, what you can do for that. With cigarette smoke, hey guys, the best product I've come across in all my clinical time, if you want to stop smoking, is Voke. That's VOKE. Just go to voke.com. It's not an e-cigarette. There's no fumes, there's no vapor. I believe it's the only product, because you're not allowed to use e-cigs on London Underground either. But the London Underground have actually approved use of this on the London Underground. The only product ever to have been given the okay for that. And you know, if you do smoke, look up vote.com, give it a try. Pollution we've talked about with the AGE. Sugar in the diet, well, just cut it down. Again, AGE helps with that. Mechanical stress, the main stress is when you're sleeping. So do think about a silk or satin pillowcase. That will make a big difference. You know, for 6, 8, 9 hours of 24 hours, you're basically rubbing your face one side or the other. And so it's no wonder that most of my patients, I can guess, if they're above a certain age, certainly, which side they predominantly favour when they sleep. Hormonal changes. I'm not going to talk about HRT. I've got a great colleague actually who is on Instagram, who may be on today, who actually I might try and invite on, who is a hormone expert and also deals with identical hormones, and maybe we could do something around menopause and skin. But you know, it is more of a consideration perhaps when ladies are approaching menopause, just because you're going to get that acceleration of collagen degradation. And so that kind of brings me to the end. I just want to see if there's any questions that I haven't addressed. I've addressed those. Hi, I'm 33, I suffer from acne. What is the best to use? I hate it, it's painful. The GP gave me antibiotics, but seems like it's not helping. Okay, so the first thing, acne, that is taking me off topic, and I have actually had 3 messages to do something on acne, so I will do that hopefully in the coming weeks. But for now, just very briefly, if you've been started on anything from your GP, obviously I need to give you the proper advice, which is that before you change or chop or want to do anything, you should discuss it with your GP. You should give anything that's been given for skin 6 weeks, minimum 6 weeks, before you think this isn't doing me any good. And so don't be too premature in wanting to stop. I'm personally not a big fan of oral antibiotics. I have and still do a little bit of work in the NHS, and well, more in the next couple of weeks, but normally speaking, and we do have a limited remit within the NHS of what we can prescribe, but I do really like topical antibiotics, so the topical solutions, because they're working mainly within the skin. But oral antibiotics, I personally am not a big fan of, and I might get shot for saying this. Obviously, if you've been prescribed it, you should have it, but we all know that antibiotics do have a negative effect on our immunity. They change the gut flora. Our gut bacteria form, over 95% of our natural immunity, if you like, and it takes a good month for the bowel flora to recover, if they recover at all. So some patients do come to us and say, look, I don't want to use these antibiotics. So I don't know if the antibiotics you're talking about are tablets or topical, but that's just something to clarify. You're 33, yeah, you probably think I'm too old for this, it's a teenager problem. 25% of ladies over 40 will still complain of spots. It may just be cyclical, related to the time of your period, or it may be other times when you're stressed. There is usually a hormonal trigger at some point. If I get the occasional spot, it's going to be stress. If you can maintain good skin health and balance, you will discourage spots. So often we're putting so much aggressive stuff on our skin. We're using lots of strong salicylic acid, and we're using other cleansers and washing because I feel dirty with my skin, or all these things. We're just giving it too much discipline. I often talk about acne like a child. You need to give a balance of discipline and love. And often with my new acne patients, I feel they're not giving their skin enough love. They're giving it too much discipline. So I mentioned the Ultimate Boost Serum earlier, but there's another thing, a ceramide cream that we use that actually I would give to an eczema patient, but I will also give to someone who complains of greasy skin with spots. And they might think, are you nuts? Why are you giving me this? But often people are hydrating their skin with things that are going to block up, ingredients that are going to block up the pores. So you want to hydrate the skin, because otherwise your glands are just going to produce loads and loads of oil to try and hydrate your skin to compensate for this dehydration. So you need to hydrate the skin, but you need to use the right ingredients to hydrate the skin, and that's the key. Sometimes with our acne patients, all we do is change their basic skincare. I actually rarely do a proper medical prescription for acne patients. I would say 1 in 20 to 30 of our acne patients do I actually do a prescription. And we just change their basic skincare to a few choice ingredients, and almost always after 6 to 10 weeks, they'll come back with an improvement. And we're actually doing a study at the moment looking at this using a scoring system to actually give some figures behind that, but that is genuine in what I'm saying. So again, there is something called the Triple Lock Protocol that we use, and you can DM me if you want information on that, and then I can put you in touch with the company, and you can arrange for the products to be sent to you. And so yeah, just think about hydration. Think about, am I washing my skin too much? Am I being too harsh to my skin? There's a lot of myths. Don't worry about what you eat. Well, you should worry about what you're eating for general skin health, but there's a lot of fads and myths about, if you eat too much chocolate or too much fast food, it's gonna, make your acne worse. There's no good evidence to back that up, but there is evidence to back up that some of the ingredients in processed foods aren't good for skin health overall. So it's probably best you leave that alone. And then of course there are in-clinic treatments. So, I don't know whereabouts you are in the world, but there'll hopefully be somewhere near you, a clinic where you can get maybe some skin peels. And again, please don't buy these over the internet. I have seen just in the month prior to lockdown, 2 ladies with the most horrific, permanent side effects to their skin from just using products that they bought over the counter, online. So, go to a reputable clinic and look at skin peels that you can have specifically for acne. And also there's certain laser and light treatments that you can also use for acne as well. And there's Fractora. Fractora is also very good for acne. So there are in-clinic treatments, but I always try and get my acne patients just making some changes that they can implement at home, because it's cheaper and you need to do that long term anyway. And only if it's still quite significant or they're not seeing the improvements they wanted to, then I may recommend something in clinic for them to do, but they'll still in the long term need to maintain that skincare. Okay, so I hope that's kind of addressed your question. I'm just going to flick through. I think that's all. So we've gone 33 minutes, so I'm going to end that there today. Just a quick summary. There are definitely products you can use. They need to be the correct formulations, and you can email us or DM me and I can put you in touch and how you can arrange for that to happen. You may need a consultation if you're not on our database as a patient, to ensure that you use the correct ingredients in the correct way. Sometimes the manufacturer will say use daily, and it's the last thing you need to do. Many of my patients can buy products which will last them over a year because they're using it in a very different way to how they would use it if they just followed the instructions on the back. If you're a smoker, obviously think about that, but this is probably the worst time for people to try and stop smoking. Think about sugar in your diet, and consider swapping your pillowcase for a satin or silk pillowcase. And once the lockdown finishes, if you want to have in-clinic treatments, you can look at things like Morpheus 8, Profilo, Radies, and inquire if you want to know more, or at your nearest clinic if you live far away from us. Thanks everyone for joining me. I'm touched by how many people have joined in and how many questions I got before and during. And do look out on our Instagram pages. Follow me on Dr. Dev Patel 1 as well if you're not. And join me again next Thursday, same time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.